Good evening and welcome to the June 10th, 2024 legislative session of the Salisbury City Council. In the event of an emergency, please remain calm and exit through the double doors you came in. Make a right and proceed to the stairwell. If the hallway is blocked, then exit to the left, around the corner, and down the steps. Please do not use the elevator and let us know if you need any assistance. Public comments will be heard on any item at the end of this agenda. Please complete a form from the table by the door and give it to the city clerk. You will have 4 minutes. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, we'd like to invite Pastor Bill Reed of Parkway Church of God for the City Invocation.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to pray tonight for the City Council. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness, your love, your mercy, and your grace. Thank you for the women and men that you have placed on this council. We thank you for their leadership and their commitment to the task of developing and implementing a plan for the city of Salisbury. We come to you thanking you for the council's service while realizing our need for guidance, direction, and leadership. As they carry on the business of this city, please guide them and direct them. Your word says that the steps of a good man or woman are ordered of the Lord. Guide this council as they seek the best direction for Salisbury. Direct every decision that may be the best for Salisbury. We prayed as Jesus prayed, not my will, but your will be done. Thank you for the council. Thank you for their service. Thank you for the future that you're laying out for Salisbury. And we ask these things and thank you for them in Jesus' name, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Reed. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to introduce our newest City Council intern, Mr. Kofi Kessie. He just joined us last week, and he and Maggie Atherton, who could not be here today, but we are excited to have them. He will be working directly with Councilwoman Gregory, but assisting all of council. We're super excited for this opportunity. We can't wait to see what the work that you and Maggie will do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining our team, and we appreciate you so much. So can't wait. So quick round of applause for his work. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the legislative agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Oh, sorry. Assistant City Clerk.
Good evening, Council. On our consent agenda this evening, we have 2 items. We have the April 22nd, 2024 Council meeting minutes, and we also have resolution number 3349, approving the appointment of Melissa Howe. Is it that right, Justin? Howe? I'm going to say Howe. To the Youth Development Advisory Committee, term ending June 2027.
Thank you, City Clerk. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And Miss Melissa Howie, we appreciate your work to the Youth Development Advisory Committee, and we know that you'll do strong work on that committee. At this time, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the award of bids by the Procurement Director.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Miller, welcome back. This time we have you here in the physical realm versus virtually last time. So
yes, thank you all.
Yes.
All right, 3 items this evening. So the Department of Procurement is here to seek award of bid approval from City Council for the solicitations that we'll go over. The city followed required bidding practices as defined by the Salisbury Charter and the Municipal Code of Ordinances, and publicly posted the solicitations for the competitively bid procurements on the City of Salisbury's procurement portal and the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace Advantage. So the first item this evening is invitation to bid number ITB A-25-102. That's the Public Safety Video Surveillance Solutions for the Police Department. This is for the portable and mobile video cameras, recording solutions, whether mounted or installed in cars, body cams and whatnot, related equipment, data storage, and the analysis and management software. This is using a cooperative contract from Sourcewell, contract 101223, awarded to Axon Enterprises from Scottsdale, Arizona. This award would be pending tonight's approval of the FY25 budget. The amount that's noted in your packet would be over the course of 5 years. And then I believe I submitted some other information too to show you how much that would break down per year. Again, the purchasing authority for this is per City of Salisbury Charter SC 16-3, General Policy of Competitive Bidding Exceptions, which states that competitive bidding is not necessary or appropriate for contracts in which the city receives a contract price negotiated by the state, county, or other governmental entity pursuant to a valid contract. As a service cooperative, Sourcewell is a local government unit, public corporation, and public agency pursuant to the Minnesota Constitution, and I did note the enabling Minnesota statute in your packet as well.
Council, any questions on the first award bid?
None.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think the only question I had was, what exactly were the exact video surveillance solutions that you mentioned it mounted on, or all those things?
In car and then body cams.
Okay. And I know there's a new thing, and your chief will explain it in a few, but where all staff will need to be wearing. So I know this is going to be a task. So thank you for explaining that. Okay.
Okay. The next item is RFP A-25-103. That is Community Development Software for the Department of Housing and Community Development. It's a software solution for code enforcement, landlord licensing, and vacant and foreclosed building registration. Here again, we are using not a cooperative contract, but piggybacking on another entity's contract. It is from Blacksburg, Virginia. They solicited this same type of software solution via RFP 1128-22. Again, I'm putting in here the 3-year contract term, which is about $158,000. Yeah.
Questions or comments from council? No.
Okay. And then the last item this evening is invitation to bid number 24-116. This is our Paleo Well number 2, the rehab on that well for the Department of Waterworks. This would be to furnish all materials, labor, and equipment to rehabilitate or clean Paleo Well 2, install 2 new submersible pumps provided by the city, well and pump performance testing, and it actually purchases 1 new submersible pump and 1 check valve. Bids went public in April, on April 19th, and we opened bids May 22nd. We did have a total of 2 responsive and responsible bidders, and we are recommending award to AC Schultes of Bridgeville, Delaware, for a total cost of $101,795.
Any questions or comments from council? No? Anything else, Ms. Miller?
I got nothing.
All those in favor of the above awarded bids, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
And before we continue forward, I think we have a birthday today, and I missed it earlier, so happy birthday to our finance director, Keith. So, yes, forgive me for waiting, but you have a line item now, so. Yes, at this time, we'll pivot to our city administrator, Andy Kitzrow, for a couple resolutions. We'll start with resolution number 3350. So I'll take a motion in a second to approve resolution number 3350 for reading.
So moved.
Second.
All right, resolution number 3350, resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to amend the bylaws of the Human Rights Advisory Committee to change the committee's membership requirements and terms, Whereas on August 10, 2016, the mayor and the council of the city of Salisbury adopted a resolution creating the Human Rights Advisory Committee, and whereas the purpose of the committee is to advise the mayor on equity and inclusionary strategies that will strengthen connections among diverse communities living in the city, protect and safeguard the right and opportunity of all persons to be free from all forms of discrimination, to advocate for its citizens at all levels of governments who have been victims of discrimination, and identify and work with community partners to find opportunities to create a more inclusive and diverse community. And whereas the membership of the Human Rights Advisory Committee would be enhanced by removing the requirement that membership includes at least 2 representatives of racial or national minorities, at least 2 representatives from the LGBTQ+ community, at least 1 youth representative aged 16 to 24 years, and at least 2 members of local religious organizations. Whereas the effectiveness of the Human Rights Advisory Committee would increase from the reducing the number of meetings allowed to be missed from 3 per calendar year to 2 per calendar year. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Section 1, membership of the bylaws of the Human Rights Advisory Committee, be hereby amended by adding the bolded and underlined language and deleting the strike-through language as follows. Amended bylaws of the City Salisbury Human Rights Advisory Committee, Section 1 of membership. The Human Rights Advisory Committee shall consist of 13 members. The membership shall be authorized and appointed by the mayor and approved by council. Stricken, the membership shall include at least 2 representatives of racial or national minorities, at least 2 representatives from the LGBTQ+ community, at least 1 youth representative aged 16 to 24 years, and at least 2 members of local religious organizations. Members shall serve terms of 2 years, at which point the members may choose whether or not to apply for a subsequent term. Section B, the committee will meet at least 6 times per year. Section C, at the first meeting, a chair and vice chair will be nominated and elected, and the chairperson shall preside at all meetings and work with the staff member assigned to support these committee with setting the agenda. The vice chairperson shall preside over the meeting in the event that the chairperson is absent. Section D, for any and all formal recommendations made by the committee to the mayor, a quorum must be present. A quorum shall be at least 51% of those members appointed. Section E, members shall make every effort to attend all meetings. In the event that a member is absent from strike 3, add 2 meetings in a calendar year without either a prearranged excuse or an emergency that may be recommended for removal. That is it.
All those in favor of resolution number 3350, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve resolution number 3351, for reading.
So moved. Second.
Resolution number 3351, a resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to approve the city's consolidated plan for programming years 2024 through 2028, the action plan for community development block grant, CDBG, funds for programming year 2024, and the 2024 analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. Whereas the Maryland State Office of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has determined that the City of Salisbury qualifies as an entitlement community, and whereas the City of Salisbury is therefore entitled to receive Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, funds directly from HUD upon HUD's approval of the city's consolidated plan, annual action plan, and the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. And whereas the council and the City of Salisbury desire for the city to receive this annual allotment of CDBG funds from HUD in order that various community development projects may be completed. Now therefore be resolved by the council in the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, the council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland approves and does hereby authorize the mayor to submit to HUD for review and approval the consolidated planning year 2024 to 2028, the 2024 CDBG action plan, and the 2024 analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. The rest is spoiler.
All those in favor of resolution number 3351, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This time, we'll move forward to the public hearing portion of our agenda regarding the West Road annexation and plan. The public hearings will be on the West Road annexation and plan. Anyone wishing to speak during either of the hearings, please stand and be sworn in by the city clerk. We'll start with resolution number 3346.
I'm going to read the summary of that. So,
I just need a motion. Can I have a
I'm sorry.
motion in a second to approve the reading?
Second.
Thank you.
I'll read the summary. Resolution number 3346, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury proposing the annexation to the City of Salisbury of a certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limits of the City of Salisbury to be known as Dia Patel Properties XII LLC West Road Annexation, beginning for the same at a point being south 3 degrees 10 minutes 58 seconds east, a distance of 191.62 feet from the corner of existing corporate limits line of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, being on the said corporate limits line at a point being 1.48 feet easterly of the corner of Lot 11 of the Minokan subdivision, X1, 198,115.31 Y, 202,200.68. Number 1, thence by and with the northerly line of the said lot 11 in part south 86 degrees 53 minutes 8 seconds west, 135.1, 5 feet to a point at the northwesterly corner of the said lot 1, X1, 197,980.36, Y, 202,193.34. 2, thence by and with the said line lot 11 in part south 3 degrees 30 minutes 52 seconds east, 281.50 feet to a point at the southwesterly corner of lot 3, X1, 197,997.62, Y, 201,912.373, thence by and with the southerly line of said lot 13 in part north 67 degrees 25 minutes 8 seconds east, 145.56 feet to a point being 1.87 feet beyond the southeasterly corner of the said lot 13, also being near the westerly line of West Road on the existing aforesaid corporate lines, X1, 198,128.32 Y, 201,966.73. 4, thence by and with the said corporate limits line north 3 degrees 10 minutes 58 seconds west, 234.3, 2 feet to the point beginning containing 0.8 acres more or less to be annexed. Thank you.
I am officially opening the public hearing on resolution number 3346. The public hearing is now officially closed. All those in favor of resolution
You have one person who would like to speak.
on?
Yeah, I think it was a Zoom thing. I might have missed it. It's the Wycomico County NAACP. I believe it may be Monica.
It is.
Okay. Do we need to swear her in?
Yes.
Okay. Monica, we need to swear you in.
Thank you.
I think she has to.
I believe you have to have your camera on and your hand up if you're available.
Okay. Yep. 1 second. Okay. Can you see me?
We can.
Please raise your right hand. Actually, I can't see you now. What happened?
I can see.
Let
her,
me
but yeah.
let me turn my light on.
There we go.
Hold on.
We got you.
There you go.
Oh.
As long as Andy
You
can
did.
see you,
You can't see me?
I'm comfortable. Yes, I can see you now.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. I gotta move. Thank you for your patience. All right. Okay, apologies and thank you for your patience. I just wanted to just make a comment related to this particular project. and, well, not, honestly, not just this particular project, but in relation to the criteria for the annexations that are given. There is a lot of, appears to be a lot of, and I'm not saying this is you all specifically, but the annexations. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. Cherry picking that goes on around the annexation. And I wanted to know, in relation to this proposal, I saw that it has several apartments in question to be placed on the property. I would like consideration to be made for considering the housing problems that we're having, the housing shortage and affordable housing, despite the CDBG list. I saw all of the studies that have been done in relation to who has what and what's available. But if these new developers that are coming in, if they all can do a certain amount of affordable housing to be included in whatever projects they're doing. I don't know that some are going to be, I'm not saying some of these projects are not necessarily HUD or where they're not, but it definitely doesn't look like it was, but that should be included in every project that comes, and so that we're not overdoing it in relation to housing that people who have been waiting for places that they can afford. And that's not just low-income folk. We're talking about college students who are interested in staying in this area but still can't afford to live in this place. That we give real consideration to the requirements that we place on those who come to build in our county, in our city. And so I just like to just put that before you, as well as consideration of the neighbors around these areas that have also been looking forward to an opportunity, which they cannot get, to be connected to the city system. So we're kind of, bouncing around, and everybody around the areas get certain support, but the citizens already there are not privy to such matters. So that is my comment. And I'm sorry, my name is Monica Brooks with Comico County NAACP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. We appreciate your comment. Any other public comments? At this time, the public hearing is now officially closed. Councilwoman.
I believe when this came up in our last session, Councilwoman Jackson and I both asked to have information as to whether or not there was a plan. I believe there are 12 apartments planned for this annexation. And according to what I read, I think they did do a survey of the people living in the area. It wasn't a large survey, but they did consider their input. And we had asked if we could have more information as to whether, as Mrs. Brooks was just saying, are any of these prospective apartments going to be, by definition, affordable? And it may be something that, as a new person, again, I'm pulling that out of, the air again, but I really think we need to revisit what affordable means instead of just throwing the term around. This is affordable, that's affordable. What exactly is affordable? And how do we define this, and how do we make this part of any kind of a contract or commitment we make with new developers? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are other towns, cities that have defined this in their zoning laws. So it might behoove us to pursue that, as Monica just said, before we start taking on a lot of annexations and offering new developments to someone coming into the area.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeShiel. Yes. Not to belabor the. Did you have a?
Nope.
Not to
I'll
belabor,
let you finish.
belabor the point, but I think someone made a comment last time. I think that's something that we need to look into. And as someone who 9 to 5 does affordable housing, there's definitions. So there's very low income, and then there's moderate. So there's a spectrum as it pertains to what affordable means. And so clearly defining it, if we so wish to move in that direction, would be good for us to to move forward and what our citizens need. So thank you for that.
Developers.
Yeah,
It
of
informs
course.
them as well.
Yep. Anything else? Okay.
Nothing else to add.
All right. All those in favor of resolution number 3347, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do I say aye when I have a question about whether it's affordable?
At this point, the developer has not decided if it's affordable or not. That would be something that comes later in the conversation when they start to present things to Planning Commission. We don't typically, at this point, within an annexation of real estate or properties in general, we'll know what type of property is, apartment complex, townhomes, et cetera, but what type of apartment complex, rent controlled, affordable, market rate, et cetera, that's not determined at this time, and it's not typically a question that we require to be answered during this process, just the intended use, which would be residential apartments. And so we do not have any further clarification at this time on the intent, nor would we actually historically have that as a requirement to get past this hurdle.
So I would vote aye, and then at a later date, when he would bring forth the further information on what he wanted to use the property for, then I would show and ask my questions then, correct?
Sure, yes.
Okay, yes, aye then.
And the chair votes aye.
And just a note, just for clarification, whenever there's a property that's annexed, there's a requirement of that annexation fee to go back into a reinvestment into the existing neighborhood. So there is a fee that happens with that. And everybody enters into an annexation agreement. So as we consider additional requirements to annexation, let's look at the code, but then we can also consider those things within our agreement at a later date.
Okay,
Thank you. I think that's, we touched on two different things, and I think that's good for us to plan in the very, very near future. So thank you all for the conversation. Next, we'll move on to our ordinances, and we'll pivot to,
We have one more resolution.
I'm sorry.
We have to do the annexation
Yes.
plan.
Sorry, it took so, I thought we were on the next one. I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve resolution number 3347.
So moved?
Second.
Happy to read this.
That's why I thought we were already finished. We were
Ditto. Right. Resolution number 3347, resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury proposing the annexation to the City of Salisbury of a certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limits of the City of Salisbury to be known as Dia Patel Properties XII LLC West Road Annexation, beginning from the same at a point being south 3 degrees 10 minutes 58 seconds east, a distance of 191.62 feet from a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, being on the said corporate limits line at a point being 1.48 feet easterly of the corner of Lot 11 of a Minokan subdivision, X1, 198, 115.31, Y202, 200.681, thence by and with the northerly line of the said Lot 11 in part south 86 degrees 53 minutes 8 seconds west on 135.1 feet to a point at the northwesterly corner of said Lot 11, X1, 197, 980.36, Y202, 193.34. 2, thence by and with that said line, Lot 11 in part south 3 degrees 30 minutes 52 seconds east, 281.50 feet to a point at the southwesterly corner of Lot 13, X1, 197, 997.62, Y201, 912.37. 3, thence by and with the southerly line of said Lot 13 in part north 67 degrees 25 minutes 8 seconds east, 141.56 feet to a point being 1.87 feet beyond the south easterly corner of said Lot 13, also being near the westerly line of the West Road on the existing aforesaid corporate limits line, X1, 198.128.32, Y 201.966.73, thence by and with the said corporate limits line, north 3 degrees 10 minutes 58 seconds west, 234.32 feet to the point of being containing .8 acres more or less annexed. And again, this is the annexation plan that's attached as an Exhibit 2.
Thank you. I am officially opening the public hearing on resolution number 3347.
Check here. Online.
The public hearing is now officially closed. All those in favor of resolution number 3347, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Kitzrow. At this time, we'll pivot to Ms. Boucher. And we'll start with a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2870, sorry, for second reading.
So moved.
Second. Ordinance number 2870. This is an ordinance appropriating the necessary funds for the operation of the government and administration of the City of Salisbury for the period July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025, establishing the levy for the general fund for the same fiscal period, and establishing the appropriation for the water and sewer, parking authority, city marina, and stormwater funds. This is before you for second reading following the public hearing last week. There have been no changes or amendments, but I would like to point out that in some of the prior versions, Schedule B had cut off one or two of the projects at the top, so this version that's been included in the agenda is full and complete, and that has been corrected.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. All those in favor of ordinance number 2870, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2871 for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2871. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to amend water and sewer rates to increase rates by 9% and making said changes effective for all bills dated October 1, 2024, and thereafter, unless and until subsequently revised or changed. This is also before you for second reading following the public hearing last Monday. No changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2871, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2872 as amended for second reading. Actually,
I think, let me read the
you want to read it
amendments.
first? And then,
Yes.
okay. So motion and second to approve ordinance number 2872 as read by Ms. Boucher.
This is an ordinance of the...
Motion and second.
Second.
Motion.
So moved.
Councilwoman DeShiel.
Second.
Thank you.
My apologies.
I'm off tonight. I'm really off.
Yeah, we'll get through it.
Ordinance number 2872. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to set fees for FY 2025 and thereafter, unless and until subsequently revised or changed. Following the public hearing last Monday, there have been two changes. First, removing the sale of code book that is being struck from the fee schedule. Secondly, the trash service fee, which is reflected on page 8, is increasing to $73. So those are the two amendments following the first reading and public hearing that we've had.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2872 as amended for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2872 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2876 for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Is that 7.5 or 7.6?
Salisbury's, that's where I'm still in.
7.5 is the next one.
Motion is second to approve ordinance number 2875 for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2875, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to appropriate funds for various capital projects. As you mentioned, this is before you for second reading. There have been no changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2875, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve ordinance number 2876 for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2876, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing a budget amendment to appropriate funds for the WTP, which is the Waste Treatment Program Filter Project. This is before you for second reading, no changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2876, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve ordinance number 2877 for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2877, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to lower the posted speed limit in the Village at Tony Tank Creek neighborhood to prevent traffic fatalities and serious injuries in keeping with the city's Vision Zero goals of eliminating all traffic deaths and serious injuries by January 1, 2030. Whereas the Salisbury Charter, Section 11-2, gives the City of Salisbury charge of all public ways in the city. And whereas the city has adopted Vision Zero as the city's transportation safety policy. And whereas both the city and Vision Zero recognize speed is a primary cause of death in traffic crashes. And whereas reductions in speed are proven to increase the likelihood of a pedestrian or cyclist surviving a crash by as much as 60%. And whereas on low to moderate volume, one or two-way streets designed to be primary streets within a neighborhood for through traffic, the speed limit should not exceed 25 miles per hour. Section 1 of Ordinance 2877 reads that for the purposes and reasons herein set forth, and from this point forward, the speed limit in the Village at Tony Tank Creek neighborhood shall not exceed 25 miles per hour.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2877, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion in a second to approve ordinance number 2878 for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance 2878. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury amending Title 10 entitled Health and Safety of the Salisbury City Code by adding a new chapter, 8.36, entitled Abandoned Shopping Carts. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, and enforcement of the city municipal code demonstrates a need for its periodic review, evaluation, and amendment in order to comply with present community standards and values and to promote the public safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of the city. Whereas mayor and council of the city are authorized by Maryland Code Local Government Article Section 5-202 to adopt such ordinances not contrary to the Constitution of Maryland, the public general law, or public local law as the mayor and council deem necessary to assure the good government of the municipality, to preserve peace and order, to secure persons and property from damage and destruction, and to protect the health, comfort, and convenience of the citizens of the city. Whereas mayor and council may amend the Salisbury City Code pursuant to authority granted in SC 2-15 of the Salisbury City Charter. And whereas the mayor and council find that abandoned shopping carts are a nuisance, create potential health and safety hazards to the public, and interfere with pedestrian and vehicular traffic within the city. Whereas the accumulation of wrecked, abandoned, and dismantled shopping carts on public and private property creates conditions that reduce property values and promotes blight and deterioration. Whereas mayor and council find that the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of the city will be furthered by amendments to Title 8 of the Salisbury City Code. And whereas mayor and council have determined that amendments to Title 8 of the city code set forth below shall be adopted as set forth herein. Section 1 of Ordinance 2878 reads that Title 8 of the Salisbury City Code is hereby amending by adding the bolded and underlined language as follows. And this is a completely new section of our code, so everything that I'm reading to you will be added to the code. Under Chapter 8.36, which will be governed by abandoned shopping carts. Section 8.36.010 is intent and declaration of nuisance. A, the City of Salisbury has determined that unauthorized removal of shopping carts or parts thereof on public and private property from retail establishments constitutes a nuisance, creates potential hazards to the health and safety of the public, and interferes with pedestrian and vehicular traffic. The accumulation of wrecked, dismantled, and abandoned shopping carts on public and private property creates conditions that reduce property values and promote blight and neighborhood deteriorations within the city. B, the intent of this chapter is to ensure that cart owners take measures to prevent the removal of shopping carts from business premises, to make the removal of shopping carts a violation of this code, and to facilitate the retrieval and return of lost, stolen, and abandoned shopping carts in a manner that complements and supplements provisions of the state law. C, this chapter is not intended to duplicate state law or regulate any matters pertaining to shopping carts which are the subject of state law. And D, to the extent any provision of this chapter is determined to be preempted by state law, it shall be deemed severed from all other provisions of this chapter, and such other provisions shall remain in full force and effect. Subchapter 8.36.020 governs definitions. For purposes of this charter, the following words have the following meanings. Abandoned cart. This means any shopping cart that has been removed without written permission of the cart owner or on-duty manager from the premises of a business establishment, regardless of whether it has been left on either private or public property. Business establishment. This means a location where a business is conducted, goods are made or stored or processed, or where services are rendered. Business premises means the entire area owned and utilized by a business establishment that provides shopping carts for use by customers, including any parking lot or other property provided by the cart owner for customer parking. Cart owner means any person or entity who, 1, in connection with the conduct of a business establishment, owns, leases, possesses, uses, or otherwise makes any shopping cart available to customers or to the public, or 2, is the on-site or designated agent of a person or entity described in 1 that provides the shopping carts for use by its customers. Director means the Director of Housing and Community Development Department. Enforcement official means a code compliance officer or other official as designated by the director. Persons means an individual, corporation, partnership, limited liability company, or other legal entity. Public place means every class of road, sidewalk, parking lot, or other areas publicly owned and operated or privately owned and open to the public, or a segment thereof, excluding the interior or parking area of any establishment where shopping carts are made available. Qualified cart retrieval service means a city-approved commercial service operated by a third party and paid by a cart owner to retrieve and return shopping carts. And finally, shopping cart means a basket which is mounted on wheels or a similar device provided by a business establishment for use by a customer for a purpose of transporting goods of any kind, including but not limited to grocery store shopping carts. 8.36.030 governs enforcement authority. The director and his or her designees, including designated code enforcement officers, shall have the authority and powers necessary to determine whether a violation of this chapter exists and to take appropriate action to gain compliance with the provisions of this chapter and applicable state codes. These powers include the authority to impound shopping carts, issue administrative citations, inspect public and private property, impose civil penalties for any violation of this chapter, or to pursue criminal actions. Chapter 8.36.040 governs unauthorized removal, unlawful. It shall be unlawful for any person, either temporarily or permanently, to remove a shopping cart from a business premises or be in possession of a lawfully marked shopping cart that has been removed from a business premises without written consent of the cart owner authorized by this chapter or for a purpose of repair, maintenance, or disposal. Subchapter 8.36.050 entitled Abandonment Prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person to cause or permit any shopping cart to be abandoned on or upon any private property, sidewalk, street, or other public area other than the business premises of the cart owner. 8.36.060, entitled Cart Identification Required. Each shopping cart made available by use for customers shall have identification signage permanently affixed to it that includes the name of the business establishment. Subchapter 8.36.070, entitled Cart Removal Warning Signs. All cart owners shall display and maintain conspicuous signs on the business premises near all customer entrances and exits and throughout the premises, including the parking area, warning customers that removal of shopping carts from the premises is prohibited by city law. 8.36.080, this is written permission required for off-premises use of cart. A cart owner may authorize a customer off-premises use of a shopping cart for transportation of purchased items so long as A, the authorization is in writing, B, the writing includes the date and time the authorization was given, and C, the shopping cart is returned to the cart owner's premises within 72 hours of the authorization. Subchapter 8.36.090, impoundment and fines. A, the city may retrieve and impound any abandoned cart or any shopping cart observed in a location outside the cart owner's premises. B, the city may immediately impound, 1, any lost, stolen, or abandoned cart on public property within the city without prior notice to the cart owner, or 2, any shopping cart within the city to which the required identification signage is not affixed. And C, for each lost, stolen, or abandoned shopping cart impounded by the city shall issue a $25 fine to the cart owner. And finally, subchapter 8.36.100, disposition of carts. A, where the city has impounded and accumulated more than 10 shopping carts belonging to a single cart owner, the city shall return the impounded shopping carts to the nearest location of the cart owner, at which time the cart owner will be fined for each shopping cart. And B, any shopping cart that does not have the appropriate identification signage shall be held for 30 days, after which the city may dispose of the shopping cart.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. All those in favor of ordinance number 2878, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. At this time, we'll move forward to our public comments portion of the meeting. Each person should have 4 minutes to speak. First, we'll start with Ms. Sante Taylor. Sante Taylor. Right over here. If you want to come to the podium, right over here.
It'll be all right. Come on up.
Good evening. Actually, Ms. Brooks actually spoke very well about the affordable housing. I was just a little bit concerned about that too. As I see it every day, and that my biggest concern is that go back and probably look at what affordable really is to a lot of people. Perhaps even extend your survey out to be a little bit larger than what they had actually started out with, to the other neighboring apartment complexes, just to see what we're actually dealing with when we actually see people that come in that meet the requirement to have to qualify for a place, but there's just not room for them. And so, and I can, I work in this city, so I see it, and so it is a big concern all over. I guess you guys actually know that too. My biggest concern too are the students as well as the children, and I say children, the ones that range from like 21 on up, that don't have anywhere to stay. People with disabilities that don't have anywhere to stay. Some just seem to think that just because if you offer an accessible place, an affordable, accessible place for them to go, they think that their disability would get them in, and it's not so. And so they just don't qualify because of perhaps maybe how the contract is written or how the program is written. And so I'm just asking that, you guys have that conversation long before anything is actually signed, and that it does project towards the community, because there's a lot more going on than what you guys actually see. I see it every day, and it's, one example is that you see an 80-year-old person with their stuff packed in their car that's worked all their lives and cannot afford to live anywhere off of $800 a month because there's no subsidized housing for them. And then the lower end of it is when you see a younger person that just starting out, you're gonna have to work 5 jobs just to be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, your hopes are to see them to get past that at some point and be able to establish them to have their own home at some point. But unfortunately, we see the population of the homeless that's growing every day. So that was just my concern.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. And we'll send you an email. Council has our Housing Action Committee coming up soon, and so I think you have some good information to add to that. So with your permission, we'll send you some information on that. Thank you. Mr. Robert Taylor?
Good evening, Robert Taylor, still from Salisbury. I want to extend my best wishes to Councilwoman Jackson. I also would want to make the observation that anybody watching this meeting tonight would probably come away with the impression or the takeaway that the council and the city is more interested in shopping carts than they are in affordable housing. Now, getting back to the question that was asked about this annexation, and I have nothing one way or the other about this annexation, but once they're annexed and they get their zoning, whatever that might be, it has to, I think, conform to what their zoning in the county is, unless they want to try to change it. But let's just say it would be, hypothetically, R5A. Well, they can build whatever they want in R5A, as long as they conform to the density, have the right side yards, front yard, et cetera, the different dimensional things. Nothing you can do about it. It can be anything. It can be McMansions or anything beyond, lower than that. So that's what we have. And the answer was, well, this is the way we always do it. And that's the problem with the way we always do it. That's how we got here, the way we always do it. And there's no indication to change. Had I been in your position, I would have voted no, because you didn't get the answer you wanted. You got a runaround. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. If we want to do something about affordable housing, as I said the last meeting, we can do it in 30, 60, 90 days. It can be done. But all we're going to do, and all we have done, is talk about it. Oh, we're going to do something about affordable housing. Now, let's look a little bit at some of the things we have done. And I want to speak specifically about the Ross, and I sent you all something about that today. A couple weeks ago, it began floating around that there were some lawsuits against the Ross for not paying bills. And as it turns out, there was a mechanics lien suit by one of the contractors, I guess, or subs. That was settled last fall. But now there's one going on for the furniture in there. You can't get a mechanics lien for that. You have to do a normal collection suit, and that's what's been done. I went and looked at that today over in the courthouse, and it looks like, now these are allegations, of course, by the seller, that there's about $350,000 owed to the seller of the furniture and furnishings that has not been paid. That's what we get when we do Horizon Program Jake Day giveaways to developers. We get bottom feeders. And that's what we've wound up with. We need to start taking a look at what we're doing, not only affordable housing, but TIFs, pilots, anything that is a developer giveaway. And frankly, I think because of the perilous fiscal condition of the city, we need to almost stop that entirely. Yes, maybe if there's an affordable housing component of it, there could be exceptions to that rule. But that's what we need to do, and we need to do it quickly. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the Ross thing. I went over and looked at the courthouse. I don't have the pleadings, but I made notes. I've been doing stuff like that for 50 years. I think I have some capability to do it. And I've given you a pretty good summary of what those are. A default judgment, default order was entered. Now they have a chance to clear that up. That is the Ross, the defendants. But it looks like to me it's going to be an interesting case. I'll just put it that way. So that's all I got to say tonight, and thank you. Oh, I will say this much. I never ran into a shopping cart I didn't like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Joe Venosa?
Good evening, Joe Venosa, Salisbury. First off, I want to commend our counsel, Ms. Boucher, because that was quite a read.
Thank you.
That makes me want to prescribe Ritalin to a glacier. Amazing, but such is the work of a lawyer. To touch a little bit on this issue, again, this is something that I was talking with a student who lives at the Ross commented. I think they're at 30% occupancy right now. I could be wrong, but that's sort of the current number. And again, I think that's testament to some of these misguided problems. I don't think there's anything particularly forward-thinking or progressive about giving subsidies to developers. You yourselves voted for a 9% increase that's going to affect citizens in this city, again, because we have a structural deficit. And you can only, to some extent, fix that by raising the costs for everybody else. That makes other people not afford things. Look at the conditions of the city for the last few decades. We have higher rates of homelessness. We have higher rates of rentership, and the problem seems to be getting worse. The financial approach to how we look at development has continually had the same pattern. I would only implore the council to please do one thing that Councilwoman DeShiel asked several weeks ago. Please have a public hearing for everyone to attend and explain what is a TIF, what is a Horizons program, how much money does go to it. Have a event, whether it's in this room or at the Civic Center or anywhere, to allow the people to actually know these, because I honestly think some people on the city council don't even know how they operate, and it's quite frustrating. It's embarrassing that we have these situations where we have students leave the city because they can't afford to be here. We have people who can't afford to live in the city who work for the city. We have a pantry for city employees. That's disgraceful on a moral level, and I'm sorry. And I know that some things are beyond your control, but that's a symptom of the broader problem. So please, let's revisit the development issue at the very least. Let's get a little bit of fiscal sanity, and at least let's understand what we're doing when we pass these developmental policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Vaughn Siggers.
Good evening. Vaughn Siggers, City of Salisbury. I was just wondering if you could just read that all again.
Everybody's got jokes tonight.
No, I'm kidding. I'm wondering, what is the penalty for a citizen seen pushing one of those carts away from an establishment? Are they cited? Are they fined for moving it? Do they have to have, if they don't have the proper validation for having that cart away from the establishment, how do you hold them accountable? Because it seems a rather precarious situation for the establishment to have to bear such an expense for the behavior of the community. And I'm not sure I hear how the community is being held accountable. Do they pay for moving those carts from the organization?
Just because it's public comment, we're not supposed to respond, but Mr. Boda and I will talk to you after the meeting.
Okay, because I didn't hear that, and I was just wondering about that. As far as the affordable housing, that's become almost cliche. It has no substance whatsoever. I don't ever hear it really coming to bearing. The questions the observation that I feel I make is that you sometimes ask a question for clarity, but not necessarily to affect the policy that you're going to put in place or how you're going to govern it. And as stewards over the city's welfare and well-being, it seems to me that you ought to be able to have the language that you would like to have in place to govern how those entities who are vying to take up occupancy in your city to conduct themselves by. If you want it to be affordable housing, then you ought to be able to make some dictates if this is going to be your stewardship. So I appreciate you asking questions, but I'd like to hear some substance that you're actually applying to how that shapes up, so later you don't have to feel like, well, I thought you were going to provide this, and I thought you were going to provide that we would be able to. I was just speaking with a young lady, I think she's 21, on yesterday, who was saying that they were getting a one-bedroom apartment, and they're paying $1,300 a month for a one-bedroom. Like, that's a bit much. So I just wondered about how you were going to ensure what you like to see reflected when this agreement comes to bear, that you will actually dictate or demand what you like to see, so that it's not just cliche when you're saying affordable housing. It's kind of like transparency. That word is another word that's become like cliche. So I would just hope to see some substance rather than just these cliches. Because it doesn't really loan itself to a balancing act as far as the benefit that citizens receive. Again, we're always talking about the benefits that the business is going to receive, and you ensure that the businesses receive that. I would just like to see an assurance on the other side for the public, and particularly for those people who can't go out there and stop those folks from taking their carts, and you see them everywhere. And I understand what the city is trying to do, and I appreciate that. But I just like to know that those citizens are being held accountable too.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers. Lynn Bratton.
Lynn Bratton, City of Salisbury, South Boulevard. Good afternoon, good evening. My too extend my best wishes for recovery, full and sufficiently healthy, to our missing council lady today. Just a couple little things. The annexation, we are expanding our city boundaries, and in doing that, we also are expanding the reach of the need for city services, i.e. police and fire and other services, to those entities and to those areas. Those come with cost, and I implore us not to allow those developers to buy into any or get any sorts of waivers, compensation, dispensations, etc., because building on that property must be something financially sufficient for them to want to do it. It must be something that shows a profit at some point for them in their development and in their business plan. And therefore, the city of Salisbury should not be supplementing that and costing others of us additional expenses because of the expansion of needs and services required. So that's a comment about the annexation. We could go down that affordable housing thing until we're all nauseous with it, but I do think there's like levels, and there need to be some definitions on that as well. There's also, along with annexation into the city, I don't know that it goes hand in hand, but we have seen a considerable amount of crime increasing in our city and in our area. There was just a murder reported last evening or over the weekend. Our services are stretched. Our youth need services. Summer is coming. There are a lot of idle hands. We're going to see more and more youth crime, more and more young people that don't have a place to go. There has been a video that's been circulating of something that happened somewhat in my neighborhood area with young people, look like to be probably, maybe under 16. I don't have any clue of identities, and neither does anybody else. But I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that our resources are being spread thinner and thinner and thinner. And we can't have a city police officer stationed at every bus stop. We can't do that. But they do need to have more resources, and we aren't going to accomplish that by expanding our reach of city domain. On another area, the survey that got quite a bit of press recently through Mr. Boda's department, or not, I don't think it was yours particularly. It was an informational system where there's 11,000 interviews going to happen over the summer. Isn't that the right number? 11? Some sort of a study. There's a grant that is paying part of it. My question is, where's the other $30,000-ish coming from? Is that coming from the city of Salisbury? I don't ever remember hearing or seeing anything on a city council agenda discussing, giving details, approving, saying it's okay for a group of college students to walk our streets and take notes. It says that it's going to be completely anonymous. Well, that's not true. If you've got an address, you can track it to a person. That's just a matter of going on SStat and doing the research. It's absolutely trackable to the person, and they're only looking for more dilapidation. Nobody's including anything in that says to note anything from the last one where something's gotten better. I mean, I think that would even be the flip side of that. We've heard earlier, a little balancing act here, don't always go after the negatives. So I'm concerned about just giving willy-nilly permission to have a study done instead of saying, this is the reason we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, this is who approved it, here's who's going to be doing it, here are their credentials, here's why their information is going to be valid and validated. SU, I know, has a program, they probably have a grant, they probably have some students wanting to do something, and they came to us and looked to us as an opportunity for them to have stuff. So thank you very much for letting me share, and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Mr. Kitzer, I believe there's a comment online.
Monica, you're back up.
Yay me. So it seems like so many people, I've been checking off what people have been saying, and so much has already been discussed that I was going to bring up. But there's one other thing that I want to address in relation to talking about, this affordableness. It's not just, we're not just talking about renters. We're talking about opportunities for housing developments to be included in that space of what can be deemed affordable. And of course, we can look at our statistics within the city to determine what that looks like. But it sounds to me like there needs to be a real, and I think someone brought this up, a real task force, a real deep dive into what we're going to do, and also really look at the so-called subsidies. And I've spoken about this multiple times in the past about our anxiousness to be so excited about certain people coming to do business. Of course, people want to come and do business here. But we need to not be so anxious to receive funds without making sure that we get what is needed. So many are looking to annex themselves and be a part of the city, but I think the city probably needs to have a real conversation with the county so that the county can start to absorb some of this from the perspective that there's a lot of infrastructure that has not happened in the county as of yet. But I agree with Lynn that so much of this heaviness is now going to be saturated within the city, and possibly some of that can be shared, and also help to bring a lot of the county services into the 21st century. So there could be a possibility of burden sharing in that space. But I do want to ensure that Wacomico County and the city are looking at ways that they can really do inclusionary zoning, really take the time to research it and to make a great platform of it so that going forward, everyone who's coming through truly can, we already have a plan in place so that there's not a lot of back and forth discussion. Also that extra monies are not required for citizens to have to give in order to make up for the deficits that come as a result of some of these subsidies. Those are my comments, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. We appreciate it. Mr. Kittrell, seeing no other public comments online.
Yep, nothing else online.
Great. Public comments portion of this agenda is now concluded. We'll move on to administration and council comments. We'll start with you, Mayor.
I haven't said anything all night.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, Andy and I, you guys all came to the Zoo Gala on Saturday night, which was great. It was a great kickoff for the campaign and for celebrating the 70th year. So that was a great thing. We saw some faces I hadn't seen in a while, and it was good. I was also informed this week that the backflow valve preventer was put on for Fitzwater Street. So hopefully that will solve that problem, and we won't see the back flooding that we've, and I'll promise to shut up about it going forward. So won't mention it ever again. We'll see, yeah. If we can believe the engineers were in good shape. Last thing I wanted to mention was, again, I wanted to wish April Jackson well. And also wanted to mention that Gary Comages, I don't know if you remember Gary, he was a former councilman, he used to be a president. He's not doing well. And if you know his family, then reach out. It'd be a nice thing. My prayers to his family. So.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Kitzrow?
Yes, a couple things. We do have the Eastern Shore Juneteenth Parade and Festival this weekend in downtown Salisbury, so if you're available and want to come out on the 15th. Also, just wish a happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there for Sunday, me included.
You picked out your
Yeah, picked out my gift. A day away. And then finally, we talked a lot about affordable housing, a lot about housing. We are constantly talking with developers, both in the market rate, student housing, and affordable housing conversations. It still continues to be, they will follow the dollars, what makes sense to them, whether it's Salisbury, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, they will follow whoever's giving them the best package. It is a business. So as we think about our desire to increase affordable housing, understand that the most lucrative way is still through tax credits, which is a very competitive process. So if we are unable to get that and they are not interested in working in our community, we have to figure out a way to incentivize that behavior. So otherwise, we'll continue to be where we're at. That kind of goes with all the development. But as we also talk about the landscape of Salisbury, I just want to remind people we are actively working on our comp plan, which is a 10-year process that is every 10 years we have to do our comp plan. That will be followed by a zoning code update. And in the zoning code is where you can focus on how you want to zone residential areas and start thinking about what we want to do. So as we continue to have a conversation about housing, affordability, what we want built where, that will all be parts of the conversation, which we will have schedules out when we can have public input, public comment on both the comp plan moving forward and then also the zoning code as we move that forward. So just stay tuned, more to come.
Thank you, Mr. Kitzrow. Councilwoman Gregory?
Yeah, so Juneteenth was mentioned, so I crossed that off my list. I also want to give a shout out for Community Field Day happening on the 19th at Billie Jean Jackson Park. I'm sure if April were here, she would be promoting it, so I'm going to do that for her. It's from 12 to 4 p.m. And then just remember, a couple of weeks from now, we got Pride coming up. Another thing that's coming up on Saturday, the 22nd, is a health fest at Salisbury Fire Department on Cypress Street. They're going to be doing all kinds of health screenings, education, resources. There's even going to be face painting for the kiddies, bike helmet measuring and fitting. So if you are someone who struggles with getting access to medical care, please come out, get assessed for diabetes, blood pressure, all of those kinds of screenings. This is a really fantastic event, and it's being put on by Tidal Health in conjunction with the fire department. So please access it. It is a great resource. And I just want to remind everybody too that Salisbury Zoo does a story time for those of you with kids who are going to be home very soon. I know Angela and I talked earlier about how the kids are reaching that time of year. Salisbury Zoo does a story time from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Every Tuesday. So take advantage of that. It's a lot of fun. Kids enjoy it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman DeShiel?
Okay. One comment that is, before I tell you of the wonderful things that are going on, regarding the increase, I have received so many calls about the 9% increase in the water and the sewer. It's a slap for everyone. I get that. Mayor Taylor was nice enough to share with me that, again, this is something mandated by the state. Brings me back to my educational career where they mandated things, but then where was the money to support it? We as a city are taking on the responsibility of the bonds and the grants, that type of thing. My question is, why weren't some of these rates spread over the last 7 or 8 years instead of getting slammed right now with 9%? Just my thoughts. On a nice note, I want to commend under Stephanie Willie. She is part of the Drug-Free Wycomico in collaboration with other Wycomico entities and the Department of Health. They every year give enforcement awards, lunch. They have a luncheon and they give awards for officers in the city, other municipalities, and the Sheriff's Department who have really gone over and beyond. And I think that that is a nice credit, because when you honor people and validate good jobs and good behaviors, that it makes a big difference. I had the opportunity to attend, as did Mr. Kitzrow, PTSD 911, the documentary that was shown at Warwick last weekend, and it was directed at first responders. If you have time, you might want to hear some of the stories from our very own here, sitting here. Chief Mindshine is here, Chief Frampton, and it is something that the stickers they gave out said mental health is not just a privilege kind of thing. It's something we need to be aware of. So hopefully we will, have a chance to, or as a community, pursue looking into mental health. And I know that Mr. Kitzrow and I it was very moving, to say the least. In honor of April Jackson, she was part of the Black History Living Museum at the library last weekend. And they did a really nice job there. I was more concerned about the local history, quite frankly, because I went over the others with my kindergartners when I taught. So it was very, very informative, and it was a very good use of, their time, our time, and anybody else participated. And lastly, just an update from the Airport Commission today. We are back to pre-COVID flights, where we have 4 flying to Charlotte every day, and we have 2 flying to Philly. So.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dashiell. I think you double as the historian as well for Councilwoman Blake.
Well, so much has already been said, so that's good. I'm looking forward to getting home. I have 3 new Shih Tzus.
3?
3 new, plus Mr. Bailey, so I know. I know, so I got 4 dogs, so I definitely have left them for a while. And my big thing is I'm worried about them getting on Amazon and ordering stuff. There's so many new puppy things to buy. There really is.
In your name.
Exactly, in my credit card. So, yeah. But they'll be doing some training soon, and training them for emotional support for children with mental health issues. So they'll be working with me in that endeavor, and that's exciting. Just as always, if you're healthy enough, please consider donating blood. Our area continues to be in critical need of blood. Consider being an organ donor as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate so much the conversation and the emphasis tonight on all the topics, especially, again, one that I talk about and that consumes my life other than the city, but in affordable housing, again, it's become said so many times that it dilutes it, but it's so important. And I think what's important also is to know that it's not glamorous. So, my 9 to 5, it is the hard work, like Mr. Kitzrow said and someone else said it before, to get it to the table can take years upon years, multiple resources, multiple conversations with municipalities. And again, sometimes more states or localities are more favorable than others. And so I'm learning that. I've been doing it for a little while now, but it's not glamorous, but I'm proud because I know that what we do is, again, provide that housing to between 30 and 80%. That's why when you say affordable, it's a widespread, but that is a range of very low income to moderate income there. So I'm glad that the community, you all, and that we're having the conversation, and we're not alone in that. So we'll continue to have it. I want us to have it along this whole corridor here. And again, I'm proud that council heard this news, and so we'll be having our first meeting for our Housing Action Committee with a few folks from the community, again, addressing these needs of housing, the state of, the quality of, the affordability of, all of those things in just 2 weeks now. So I want some measurable success to come out of this, and success meaning for our residents. So continue to push us, continue to hold us accountable. We need that as well. I'm like Councilwoman DeShield said, we had a busy weekend this Saturday, or this weekend past, and I attended the Veterans Stand Down Saturday morning, and that was a wonderful event to support our veterans, and especially our homeless and lower income veterans with those facilities. So it was good to see those community partners come around, and I told them that they definitely have support from the city, and let us know how we can help. And of course, our people who have given their time, energy, and of some their lives to our country. Then I went over to the library, and that the Black Living Museum, that was amazing, and so that I'm glad that the library finally got to incorporate that. Apparently that was a few years ago, but it finally came to fruition. So that was a wonderful event. I'm proud that my great aunt was a part of the organizers for that event, and what that means is my family assisted as well. So I had many family members who were famous and local Black individuals, as along with my cousin who was 10. So it was just beautiful to see the community go out and support each other and educate us on our Black leaders, local and on the national level. And lastly, I'll be leaving the area. My baby sister graduates with her nursing degree this Wednesday, so I'm proud of her. I want to give a shout out to her down in Georgia. So she gets Penn Thursday and then graduates Friday, and then I'll be right back Friday night to come to Juneteenth. So I'm going to have a busy, short week, but I wanted to congratulate her for this. This will be her third degree. So she's a smart individual. She'll tell you she's smarter than me, but that's not true. But with that, thank you all so much for coming, and our meeting is now adjourned.